All right. We have been trying to figure out what we are talking about. Evangel. And we keep having disagreements about what we're talking about. And I was just given these notes, which I thought were notes on what we were talking about, and Tony just did this to me. He chucked them. He said, "Oh, that's a good view."
That was a good view.
He chucked them. He said, "We don't go off of notes." He said, "We are real, we are raw, we are relevant."
Yes, and we're like Jesus.
He wings it. Is that what he said?
Yeah, I was doing some
Jesus
listening.
wings it.
I was doing some listening prayer around this Evangel disconnected conversation.
It's not disconnected.
I know. It's a little inside thing. I said disconnected earlier.
Unplugged.
But it's similar, but it says something different. Unplugged is cool. Disconnected is disconnected.
Yeah, which is ironic. They're the same kind of word, but they mean very different things here.
Okay,
this
so-
is Evangel Unplugged.
And I felt like I was asking Jesus about this conversation earlier today, and I felt like he said, "Do it like I did it." And I felt like he was telling me that Chosen got the Sermon on the Mount wrong, and that he didn't do sermon preparation.
Yeah,
He
if you've
just
seen The
flowed.
Chosen, Jesus is like rehearsing the Beatitudes. He's trying to plan like what's his hook, what are his points in the sermon.
And I don't think he did. I think he actually won it. But I could be wrong. I said I sensed that's what Jesus was saying. Yeah.
Which is a great thing to do. We always say we sense. Tony could be wrong or The Chosen could be wrong. One could be wrong. One of them is wrong. Anyway, welcome to Unplugged. This is not disconnected, but as you see from this other view, check out our rear camera here. There is nobody else in here except the camera. And we need to look at the camera, not the TV above. I keep looking at the TV above there. But this is Evangel Unplugged, where we talk through. Actually, this is called Unplugged. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. This is called Unplugged because these ideas are still being hashed out, and they are being hashed out. And so this is a little bit of a sneak preview into what maybe our visionary team staff meeting look like, hashing out ideas. And the idea that we are going to be hashing out today and trying to figure out, and questions we are posing is, yes, Vadim? What? Okay, here's the question. Vadim's tongue is tied. Here's what we're going to be talking about today, but Tony's going to give a couple of announcements first. Here's what we're talking about. What do we do with children on Sunday morning? Because we want your children to fall more and more in love with Jesus. And what do we need to do to facilitate that in the best way possible? But first, some announcements.
Talk to me. That was good.
Do we have to make any announcements? Is there anything we have to
Well,
say?
it's kind of like church. You always do announcements.
No, let's get right into the
What is
discussion.
it? What is church without announcements?
Well, you can find all the announcements on
Yes,
the app.
go
or
online.
website.
Yes. Oh, yes. Let's make that announcement. The app. Go find our app. And all the announcements are on our app. Seriously, though, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and hit the bell. There's a bunch of you guys subscribed, but there's a bunch more that need to subscribe so you get all the Sunday morning and random inspired stories, funny stories,
Right.
Evangel
all that
Unplugged.
stuff.
Evangels Unplugged are in there. Yeah.
Yep. This is going to be in there after the live stream, etc., etc. Okay, the question this morning is,
Why don't we start with the rumor?
let's start with, that.
the rumor.
Yes, that was a great
are
rumor.
rich.
Who
Rumors
want-
are rich.
Ooh,
Rumor
yes,
has it.
rumor. What's the old VeggieTales song? The Rumor Mill or the Rumor Weed?
Yes.
Oh, I would sing it, but I can't think of it right now.
We need Paul.
The Rumor Mill.
Okay, so let's keep this convo to 30 minutes or so.
Yes, which is
Yeah.
hard because I'm
I have a
listening.
timer on the floor in front of us.
Okay, Vadim, what's the rumor?
Well, the rumor is that at Evangel,
We heard a rumor.
we heard a rumor.
Yeah.
Because you hear rumors. The rumor was that at Evangel, we don't do kids ministry.
Anymore.
Do is
Dun,
an
dun,
interesting word.
dun, dun.
Interesting. All right.
Well, can I just say something?
Tone go.
Okay.
Is that rumor true?
Okay, so
hit it off.
one of the things that happened when COVID struck was we suddenly were pushed into a new reality as a church. And the reality was, I mean, we had all this work that we'd gone into with Kid City, Into the Wild, epic program.
Just kicked off.
You were kind of, Jimmy, you were kind of the architect of that, and we were all a part of that process, and it was a big deal. But all of a sudden, COVID hit, and without the gathering, all of a sudden, kids ministry went out the window as well. So we, at that point, were shuffling. I mean, everything was up, and I was like, fruit basket upset. Now what do you do? Mm-hmm. And we had considered a few things at that point. One of the things that a lot of churches did was they rolled into a live YouTube thing for kids. But what we found was that was a lot of work and investment would go into that. And for the churches that were doing it well, it would be a very, very small group of kids that would tie into that. And so we kind of went, okay, there's something different here. And all of a sudden, what seems to be the better thing is families worshiping together in their homes. And so all of a sudden, you were forced into this reality where parents were actually spending more time teaching their kids than we were, probably for the first time in a long time, because we would rely on kids programs and kids ministries and things like that. And you had a more kind of home-centered picture, and without all the programming and services that churches normally provide parents of kids. So that was kind of the reality of COVID, and I don't know if there's anything we could have pushed around that. So you could have said for sure over COVID that we were a church that didn't do kids ministry. I would not agree with that statement now.
No.
And even in back then, I wouldn't agree with that statement, because I think you have to ask yourself the question, and you guys can push in. I'll keep talking. But what makes a church friendly to children? And I think we are actually wanting to redefine that, because what's traditionally made a church friendly to children is a children's program on Sunday. And we actually think that there's a lot more to being children friendly than just a program on Sunday.
Well, and I think too, we go back to that Matthew verse where Jesus says, "Let the children come to me." And I think for us processing this season, it's like, what's the best way that we can allow children to encounter Jesus? What's the best way we can let children have an atmosphere where children can grow? And I think these are some really important questions that we are addressing, and not just wanting to go back to the way it was. Like, you guys have been so patient with us as we're trying to get this figured out, and I commend you for that. But if you could, and maybe this is something I would say at the very end, but pray with us as we are determining what God has given us, mandated us in the church, in the believer's life, to help make it possible for kids to encounter Jesus. And maybe it is a program, but I can tell you this, it's not a program every night of the week to make families busy and to have these things. I think it comes back to the home. I really do. And I mean, maybe there's stuff that we do here on a Sunday that helps connect kids, but...
Right, and I think that's one of the things that we've been wrestling with, is the whole idea of home and church, this place when we come here on Sunday.
Switch the angle so they can see the building there, Vadim.
Yeah. Here
you got to be on that.
Vadim is running those cameras from his iPhone.
Yeah. So this is what I mean when I say church. This is the common term that thank you.
Can I do it for a while? Let me do it.
You can, but just use the two buttons.
Hey, when you switch it, I'll turn around and face the camera.
Okay.
Switch it?
So go ahead with you.
So this is what I say this is what I mean when I say church.
That's distracting. Okay.
Just the word that we use for Sunday morning when we go to church, right? So for us, especially during COVID, the whole idea of home becoming more important than this place, not in the sense that, God's not here, he's not present, he's not doing anything, no. But because we realized that, wait a second, we got shut down, we got kicked out of this building, yet we still could experience God's presence in our homes. And that was the biggest revelation. And so as we're back to normal, quote unquote, we don't want to just go to normal. It would have been the easiest thing to go back to the good old days, but we want to understand what God is doing on a global scale through the whole thing.
Question.
And how, kingdom and what we call church merge together.
Yeah, very good, Vadim. We want to understand, we want to be asking the question, Jesus, what are you doing in this season? And that is not just for kids, would we agree?
Absolutely.
How's our cameraman doing there?
I'm having
Pretty
fun.
good.
Having fun.
Okay. We will always miss out if we do not constantly ask the question, what is Jesus doing in this season? Right?
What is Jesus doing in this season?
Yes.
And maybe that's why we haven't jumped right back into doing everything normal, because we want to just make sure we have his heart for the season. And I like that.
Right.
Asking Jesus what he's doing
And taking
in the season.
and taking advantage
Yeah.
of the opportunity to reset a little bit. Like,
Yes.
that's the hot
Yeah.
word. But you never have a chance like we have right now to go like, we don't really have a pattern right now. So we can actually
Yes.
kind of take our time rather than just going, boink, right back into
Yeah.
business as usual.
So so you hear people say, man, all this kind of these extreme words like this tyranny and this chaos and this pandemic and kind of all this negativity, almost as though it were a shocker to Jesus that it happened. Almost as though he didn't know it was going to happen. And we know who's behind this. We were talking about this last week. The devil's behind this. But people talk about it as though it was a shocker to Jesus. We just have to get back to normal. And then things can go forward. But if you miss the question of what is Jesus doing in this season, then you completely miss. Maybe he wants to, maybe specifically in you, he wants to grow your character. Maybe in me, he wants to do something else. Maybe he wants to just, So it's like, what is Jesus doing in this season? Okay, you guys said something. I forget which one of you said it. Tony or Sarah, maybe? We don't just want to go back to how things were. My question is, why do you not, specific to kids, why do you not want to go back to how things were? You guys have been pastors for 40, 50 years. You've been pastors your whole lives.
Not since I was a baby.
Not that long, but you've seen lots of things. You've been in ministry, full-time ministry for 25?
Can I answer
As old as I am. So the question is, why do you not want to
Well, let me just
go back to the kids thing? What is it about it that's giving you like,
Well, I would say two things. From a global perspective, it is pretty much undeniable that the church has not really been moving forward, especially in Canada. And you hear people talk about this every once in a while. We're losing ground. And in other words, the conversion rate into Christianity is not even keeping up with population growth. It's minus. So we're actually we're going the other.
There's less and less Christians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Percentage-wise in Canada. And that's just the global reality. It's the same in the U.S. It's not the same in every part of the world, but it's definitely North American reality. So I think when I say we don't want to go back to the way things were, it's not an all-inclusive statement of we are rejecting everything from the past, but it's this opportunity to go, we can try some new things. And then the second thing I would say is just from a local church perspective. So from a global perspective, that's the reality. From a local church perspective, all of us as staff have wrestled with this for years. All of our ministry is this model that we have in North America where you come into church on Sunday, it's really a one-man show in a lot of cases. You would sit and passively listen to me preach or somebody else preach as a worship band. And you have this kind of come to the feeding trough, get fed. You're really reliant on that minister at the front to give you something to spiritually sustain you for the week. And so we have all grappled with that and thought, how can we change this? Like, what can we do to tweak the model? And again, coming out of the season, the unprecedented season of church being basically shut down for a number of months, you have this opportunity to look at those things again. So when I say, I know what you wanted to add to this, Sarah, but when I say I don't want to go to the past, I don't think it means an all-inclusive. We don't want to just rubber stamp back into what we were doing, because why would we when, and I've said this from our pulpit many times, when we had this anemic version of Christianity for the most part in North America, where people go to church on Sunday, but it really doesn't impact their lives, it doesn't change their character, They feel weak spiritually. So why would we want to go back into that and just cookie cutter it back into now? We need to really be careful, like you were saying, Jimmy, and go like, this is an opportunity to kind of go, what's Jesus saying? Not what is tradition saying, what is our past successes or failures saying, but what is Jesus saying in this season?
Well, and I think, too, there is so much value in what we saw that happened over COVID from different people saying the crazy connections they had with their kids on a Sunday and the discussions that came out of it and the parents thinking, you know, on the way home from work, where can I lead my kids to around the supper table today? God, like, what are you doing? What are you saying? How can I lead them? And so we just saw more of that. And I can't help but think, you know, there's something powerful about kids, this is a different point, but kids watching their parents love Jesus, walk in relationship with Jesus. Like, there's something super important about that, you know? Like, and I just think, you know, when the kids came, and I'm just thinking out loud, when the kids came to Jesus, there wasn't, you know, I don't think there was fireworks. Maybe there wasn't even puppets. Probably not. I can't imagine the disciples, you know.
Sound system.
Right. But there was his presence. Like, the presence of Jesus is what drew the kids. And I just think when we have that, whether it's in the main gathering, whether that's at home, whether that's in Kid City, Junior Kid City, that's what we need. Like, that's the be-all, end-all when it comes to leading kids is that they're going to be attracted to the presence of Jesus and cultivating that in our building, in our homes, in the car.
You wonder how much we do that we do in church, local churches, just intended to prop up a church that doesn't have the presence of Jesus. I'm not saying that's definitely not evangel. I mean, because Jesus is here every week. But
That's
you know,
true. That's true.
anyways.
Yeah. Vadim,
I was just going
I'll
to
let
say,
you talk.
you, Sarah, you've been working hard over the last year or so on devotional for kids. It's called Abide for Kids, right? And which is a super cool tool that parents can use to lead their kids into a relationship with Jesus. And we've been testing it, right? So lots of families in Evangel, they've tried it, and we hear good stories. So these are some of the things that we're wrestling with, as we're saying. You know, how do we bring church, what kids are learning in Kid City, how do we bring it to home and that kitchen table when we have conversations, when we have breakfast? How many parents actually, open their Bibles and read stories to their kids? These are the questions that we are asking always.
Yeah. Okay, part B of that question, which is part A.5.
Sure.
It's kind of the first question. Proverbs says you'll know wisdom by its fruit, right? And there's another proverb in Proverbs, don't know where it is, but it says our fruit, something to the effect of our fruit is our children. So putting those two together, you'll know wisdom by your children or the fruit of your children. So look at the children and you can see, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? So in Kid City, how Evangel has typically done Kid City, do you see negative fruit of how it's been done? Obviously, there's positive fruit. We've seen the kids that grow up to love Jesus, the local church, want to serve, character, integrity.
And there's just there's kids in church. That's a positive thing.
Yep.
That's always been an evangel trait.
Yes. That come out of Kid City.
Yeah.
And still love Jesus. What would some of the negatives that you see of, and I'm specifically talking about doing a Kid City program every Sunday?
That's
it's making us
interesting
think this way.
that you asked that, because and maybe I can say this because I've been doing involved in kids ministry in this church for many years, and I always wanted to make it fun fun and attractive, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But when church is not fun, and you actually have to wrestle through those hard character issues and the listening prayer questions and praying with others, when it's not fun, what have we created? You know what I mean? So I think in myself, I love to make Kid City fun. I love it when kids love to come to church, but I think there's more to it. And
Can I just jump on that?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's a brilliant point. And one of the things we've maybe created, and this is again North American church phenomena. Like when we go to Zambia, there's I don't remember ever there being a kids program. Kids are in the service, but we've created this entertainment industry. It's not just kids; it's all the way across the board, where people begin to think that the Christian walk is glitz and glamour and all of this. But one of the things I know I've been really feeling God's take me deeply into is the disciplines of the faith. And Jesus said the road is narrow, few there are that find it, that leads to life. And so I do think there's an element with kids where it's like we've maybe created this impression that it is all balloons popping and games and candy and whatever, when it's not all the time. So, but it doesn't mean we don't do that. And I think the other word we've been talking about is integration. And it's like there are times when you integrate kids into the life of the church, which has always been a value of ours, which is why we've always kept kids in worship. Mm-hmm. Because we want to integrate them in. We don't want to just have them separated from the life of the church. And so the question is, and I think we all agree, there's a point where it is very beneficial to take them out. And whether it's a specific teaching or it's just to make we can't expect them to sit through a whole service and just be excited about that. So we're trying to make it energetic for them. So that's another thing I think we're wrestling with is integration. Like, what does that look like? But we feel very strongly that kids need to be integrated and they need to feel like
it's segregation. You know what made me think of next is your dream when we were remodeling this place, we were fixing it up, and you had this dream of every space, not a youth room or not a kids room over there, but every space being kid-friendly and youth-friendly. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wonder if that's for now, if that's what we're living into now. You know, whatever we're doing, we're not segregating the kids off here, but we're bringing them in to what we're learning.
Right.
And I think you see that on Sundays, how we, have some fun with kids' songs. We preach kind of at a age
We try.
We try.
I was going to say, like, back to your question about fruitfulness. Are we unhappy with the fruit of?
Yeah. Is there bad or not bad fruit, but fruit that kind of we're frustrated with over time?
I grew up. My parents had this apple tree in the front yard, and it grew apples like nobody's business, millions of apples. And if you know apple trees, that's the problem. It had way too many little teeny apples. But I had no idea that to me seemed incredibly fruitful, but the fruit wasn't awesome. It was good for applesauce and apple juice and things like that. My mom had a vision of what could happen with that apple tree. And one day, we literally came home from school one day, and she had taken an axe to the thing, pretty much it was literally just one stump.
It looked dead.
Stub.
I remember that.
And we all thought,
you prune it.
You've totally killed it. But what happened 3 years later was it started producing fruit again. And now you have these massive, it was unbelievable, actually. I was like, I didn't know that tree could even do this. So I think we're not unhappy with the fruit of yesterday, but there's something inside of us that goes, there could be more here.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So the person that says, wait, you guys are kind of rethinking Kid City, and I only see, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I've only seen good things come from it. What I'm hearing you guys say is, we do think Kid City is a good thing. We do value the fun. We know Jesus is fun. And we do see good fruit, but we feel like there's some missing pieces, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. We feel like there's some missing pieces that we feel like Kid City cannot do. And one of those is the parent is the primary pastor of the kid, right? The parent is the first person that leads the kid to Jesus, not the pastor. Is that correct? So would you guys kind of say that's right? Like Kids City is awesome. We love the fun. We love those aspects, but we feel like there's some not links missing, but like things that need to be emphasized that are hard to emphasize with doing it every week, big fun thing. Push back if you think that was
I'm
wrong.
thinking, sorry, cut you off. When you said parents are the pastor, I think ultimately Jesus is the pastor. You know, was that what you were going to say?
Yeah, pretty much.
Amen.
Pretty much. I was just going to say, when we say that a parent is a pastor, I agree that, yes, Jesus is a pastor. But I also want to emphasize that we're not saying, like, you know what, it's your responsibility to do Kid City. No, we want to participate. We actually want to partner with you. We want to partner with families and parents. And that's exactly the tools that we're developing for the devotional materials, and even parents being involved here in the Kids City as volunteers, like, because we want them to actively participate in pastoring their kids, and not only their kids, other kids. Some kids come from unhealthy families, broken families, where the parents are not there to lead their kids. I come from that kind of family. And so for me, it was very important to go to a children's ministry, Sunday school, or youth, and that's where I had that input from parents, from other parents. And so if you're that parent, we would love to partner with you. We would love to get you involved and equip you and help not only your kids, but also other kids.
Right. So I would just say that we are in a season, I forget how you worded it before, but basically where it's a blank slate.
Yep.
We are in a blank slate season.
Yep.
Well,
When it
how
comes
about-
to not just kids, when it comes to everything, when it comes to church, when it comes to, things outside the church, how we do things, there's a great, do you want to say something?
the way we do things, one of our values is that we do handstands and rap songs in Kid City. That seems, that's true. But what seems even more edgy, do I say it? Do I dare say it? Sometimes we cancel Kid City. Whoa, I said it.
Is that allowed? That goes right along with the analogy. There's this analogy about a rocket ship, the thrusters, which take the rocket into space, are ejected once the thrusters are no longer needed because they are simply dead weight. Let that sink in. I think we aren't saying we're just chopping stuff and dropping off things that are dead weight, but I think when God, again, it goes back to this question of, Jesus, what are you doing in this season? We aren't just moving, I think it was Chris Valentin that said, we aren't just moving from season A to season B. This is a metamorphosis season. This is a becoming something. So we're trying to ask the question, are there dead weights, things in the church that we do just because we've done and we've always done them, we aren't sure why we do them, and they aren't biblical absolute. They're just things that we've done. Obviously, we will never cut out lattes and coffee. Like, that is a great thing that will always be in the church. But in that analogy, there's just things that it's like in this season or this metamorphosis of where God's taken us, are there things that we are carrying that actually were absolutely needed to get us here, but now we're powered by something different.
Yeah, I think and I would say we will never ever not do Kid City. That will never not be a part of our church because that's a huge value. Although even the idea of what worship looks like on Sunday, we're messing around with that. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we're doing a house of prayer this week. And you never in my entire life as a pastor's kid or as a pastor have we ever done prayer meetings on Sunday morning.
Only Wednesdays.
Yeah, we do them on a Wednesday night or whatever, and then try to add more things to the schedule, which I think the church is guilty of, is adding too many things to the schedule. So we're just trying some different things. It doesn't mean Kid City is out of the loop. I love what happened we kind of call it Homecoming Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. It was a mass, like kids were engaged.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stories.
Baptisms.
Last week was an interactive service with
10-bit donuts.
Yeah, and there was an object lesson in the preach, and there was a fun song. The kids that were in the room here last Sunday, I thought that was as good as Kid City, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This week we're doing House of Prayer Sunday, and the crazy thing about House of Prayer, we have found any kids that come to prayer summits and any kids that come to House of Prayer, they're way more ready to engage that actually than their parents in a lot of ways. They love the idea of praying for people and watching people receive prophetic words. They love the idea
getting prophetic words,
of hearing Jesus' voice and coloring out things. And so that to us, that's more of a more interest of having kids with us,
Right.
and experiencing God's presence amongst their families or whatever.
Right.
But then recognizing that there are some times where that's really difficult, so that's why we're doing programs for very young kids this Sunday, and have a nursery that's available and things like that.
Okay, so with that, let's go down that road for a second. We have 3 minutes left. What are some of the ideas floating around in our heads of to help us get to where we want to be with children? We do love children at Evangel. And we don't just do something for children or do children. We actually love children. And so what are just some of the ideas? You already mentioned the homecoming, getting kids involved out here. But just to kind of like talk that through a little bit. Okay, I'm thinking for the mom that it's like, oh, we've known as Kid City. We come and bring our kids to Kid City. What are some things that we can expect? And what can I do as a parent? Tiana and I have 4 little kids. And sometimes it is hard. They're sitting right up front here, and it's like we would love to be like, okay, let's go back to Kid City so we can pay attention. What are some of the ideas kind of circulating, floating around that could work, but we aren't sure yet?
Well, the last House of Prayer, did I cut you off?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
The last House of Prayer, I noticed there was 2 kids. One of them was yours, Aria, and she's 4, and she was laying on the ground with her journaling during the time that we were just journaling Jesus' thoughts, but she was coloring. She was drawing a picture, and Ben Hummel's daughter as well was laying here with her journal. I got a picture of that. They were like
engaged,
learning with their parents what it means to listen to God's voice, journal His words to you, and that was powerful. And so this Sunday, what we've done is we've made a little booklet for the parents to have with their kids that follows along with all the different things that we're going to be doing for House of Prayer. And that's, I think, for ages 5 and up.
Can I just say that the issue, when you think of your kids in church, the issue, I remember saying this in a marriage seminar. We were talking about, like parents and having their kids and all these issues. And I said to them, the issue is never a kid issue. It's always a parent issue. And so as you're kind of in this environment and you're trying to figure this out, your kids are wired by God they have the same needs to pursue Him as you do, and they have the same empty space that only He can fill. But sometimes it's us relearning how to bring our kids along in that journey. And so I think I don't say that as a accusation or anything. Don't feel any condemnation about that, but I think be encouraged that this is a learning process, and you're with all of us learning how to do this. And so things that one of the things we'll be doing is offering tools like Sarah's saying, so you can actually have something that your kids have and you can help them walk through it or whatever.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that we promise that we're going to partner with you. The whole idea of this is something that you should expect, is that the home is going to be the center of God's kingdom. Anything that we do, whether it's on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, home is where we want to focus. And the whole idea of integration. We want to integrate kids and adults.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really know how it looks like. We are starting to seeing some things and kind of feel the path in front of us. But this is the big idea, the integration.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, I would say some of the things that come to my mind quickly here, in terms of okay, if we're reimagining this, what are we doing? One is having kids more involved in the main service.
Right.
So whether it's this last Sunday, you saw kids serving the Timbits, eating and serving. One of the ideas is just to have kids serving, to giving you the weekly and high-fiving you as you come in. How cool would it be to have a kid involved and a kid feeling like they have ownership in the church?
Did you say weekly?
Yes, it did. Do we do weeklies anymore?
No, we don't. Haven't been doing
Do we
it for
do
5 years, my
bulletins?
friend. Nope.
Okay, we hand you the app and be like, hey, a kid should be like, hey, have you got
A kid's
this app?
showing you how to get you up on the tech on how to do it. They're probably better at it than we are.
That is,
Yeah.
So just kind of rethinking and reimagining. I will say this: we have not settled on anything, have we?
No, and even the
It's
idea.
all up in the air right now.
And
Even
I
the-
think too, just like having your comments below, giving us your
Yes.
feedback, I think is super duper helpful.
Yep.
And even like some parents that you've been reaching out to us, and there's been conversations that needs to happen. We really do need to hear from you.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
nothing's off the table. We've even gone like, okay, should we do Kid City every week again? There's just.
Should we go back to how it always was?
Yep.
Should we do a Kids City once a month? Should we do a serving month, a prayer, or a serving week, a prayer week? Everything. It's just all
Everything's
on
on
the table.
We're even asking ourselves the question if you have to do church every Sunday. Like, I mean, like,
What?
I just want you.
Whoa,
I
this
want
is
You're
for
asking
another
that
time.
question.
I just think you guys need to know
That's another
there are
unplugged.
no sacred cows right now except who Jesus is, walking in relationship with him, learning what it means to grow in our character. Everything else is on the
Yeah.
table.
Jesus
And
said you
we-
don't have to gather every week.
Well, I mean, that's
every
another.
Sunday?
Maybe that's another conversation, but there is no place in the Bible that says that. So,
Whoa.
I mean,
Okay, that's next week's talk. Next week's Unplugged. Okay, any last 10-second words? And by 10 second, I mean 10 seconds. Not longer. That you guys would say? If not? 5, 4.
I have lots to
I
say.
have lots to say too.
Yeah,
But
10 seconds. Closing
sometimes
comment.
kids like the Happy Meal. Sometimes they're ready to taste the Big Mac.
Where's
Is that
going?
profound?
Yes. Dun, 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 dun.
No,
We
I
needed an
think-
organ after that.
Well, I'll just let it lay.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. Anything else?
I would just say,
Closing?
be patient with the journey and communicate, and we'll be communicating with you. And I'm so full of expectation. I've been telling our staff team this the last few weeks. I feel so much clarity in the sense of God has taken us into a really, really good place. And it's going to look different, it's going to feel different, but it's going to be so, so good. And I think it's going to be the same with kids in our house.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that it is a long haul. It's a long journey.
Yeah.
It's not a month journey. It's not a year. It's a generation long, and actually generation upon generation upon generation, because we are thinking and talking about kids. You've been there, we've been there, and our kids are there now. So we're looking into the future, their future, and we are
Very
asking
good.
these tough
Yeah.
questions. Where are they going to be in 20 years?
Amen. And I would say, last closing comment, it is very helpful if you have, Tony said this a bit earlier, if you have ideas, I mean, it can be helpful talking amongst each other with other moms and stuff, but we've had a few people reach out and say, in an encouraging, constructive way, saying, here's what I think could help, here's what my kid is loving, here's what they aren't loving, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. That is very helpful. And so I would just say, reach out, put in the comments like Sarah was saying. It's helpful for us to hear those things, especially in this season where it's kind of everything is on the table and figuring out what we want to do. So, okay, with that, we are 34 minutes, but we started that probably 5 minutes late, so we're probably 40 minutes in. Thanks for sticking with us.
Come on.
And we will see you at our next Unplugged.
Yes.
Or not going to call it disconnected.
Our next Disconnected. We need a cool little, like, catchy thing for the Unplugged, like, Unplugged, or something like that.
Oh,
You know,
I
like
like
how
I'll
radio
just take-
stations.
I'll just take that recording and I'll use it.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Well, we all have to do it all at the same time. Okay. See you guys next week.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah.